Hello, 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 Facebook. How are you today? And a bit later on, hello, YouTube. How's things? Have you had a beautiful day? This is Jem for Jessie James Beads, and we're here today with a beautiful mini mix. Classical, elegant, refined, gorgeous. All of the things I'm not. Let's take a look at some of the mix, and then we can chat a little while. Let me know that you're watching. Let me know that you can hear me and everything. Let's take a quick look at the mini mix. So this is Earl Grey. There are some of the mix just on my little heart dish just here. So you can see it's a beautiful collection of muted golds, soft greys, sultry metallics. Absolutely gorgeous. There's some more in the pot as well. Not to mention the piece which I'll show you in a little while. That's Earl Grey. Have you got Earl Grey already? If you haven't already got Earl Grey in your mix, I've popped a link into the video description so you can hop on over, take a look and see if it's for you. Now the project I've got planned to share with you today can be made as earrings, which is what I'm going to show to you. But if it's too big for an earring for you, then you can always make it as a pendant. And I'll show you that variation towards the end of the video. We will look at how to change it from an earring into a pendant design. First of all, give me a quick wave. Let me know that you can see and hear me okay. It's always something of a drama when it's just me running the show, as it were, being captain of lighting and sound and all of the other things. I never know if you can see or hear me okay. So drop me a quick hello, Jem, and let me know. Also, tell me where you're in at the moment, what state you're in, and what the weather's like. Basically, we've actually got really beautiful weather today. Yesterday was a little bit much, a little bit hot, closer to 80 than 70, and you know what we're like. We're a bit rubbish. Too cold, not fun. Too hot, not a fan. If it rains too much, we just can't cope. We're a bit like hothouse flowers. We need to have it at a very specific temperature range. So let me know where you are in the States or indeed around the world. Say hello and we will have a look at some of that bead mix again just while you're popping on and joining me. So we have got some really large ovals, faceted glass, and these are fantastic because they have a colour variance. So they kind of blend through from a grey to a sultry smoky colour. They're really beautiful and ever so useful. Big sort of lozenge shape, but with that gorgeous faceting. Kathy's joining us from, I want to say Northern Carolina, where it's kind of rainy. If I've put you in the wrong state, I'm very sorry. The abbreviations are a little bit alien for me. We've also got these absolutely fantastic round flat, like the chubbiest coin bead you've ever met. But can you see how glossy they are? They're gorgeous. Thank you very much, Kathy, for saying hello. I appreciate it. Can you see and hear me okay in all that rain? I hope that all is well, apart from a little bit of drizzle. So you get some of these fabulous little beauties as well. As ever, you get an option of tassels. One of the things I love about the Jessie James Beads mini mixes, both in the pots and the packs, is that you get a really wide variety of tassels. These are kind of a suedette with a perfect golden end cap on them. They're absolutely beautifully made. We've also got a huge amount of sparkle with these lots and lots of rhinestones on a bead. I don't actually know what they're called. I'm sure Sarah or Danielle would be able to fill you in. We've got spacers in multiple sizes, more rhinestones, but this time they're opalescent. They are gorgeous. We have got some funky square beads. These are almost like a soft metallic. Danielle has joined us. Thank you, my darling. You can tell me if you know the name of these beads, because I've just been calling them multi-rhinestone beads. I don't know what they're called. Kathy says, coming in loud and clear, and yes, North Carolina. Hooray, I got something right for once. What I love about these little cubes is that they've got their corners knocked off. So each face is almost like a diamond, and then a square. Those are a lovely soft sultry grey as well. It's a very grown-up mix, but if you were to pop some other colourways in there, I'm sure you could change the feel of that entirely. One of my favourite spacers, metallic bumpy spacer beads, and they're drilled through from side to side with a huge aperture. Really, really useful. These drops are exquisite, and I feel like we might be working with some of those today. Look at the shine on those. Again, they're half AB coated, so you get a huge luster, and you can set them whichever face you think is more in line with your design. Let's have a look. We've got bead caps. I adore these. We might be working with some of these as well. Look at that. So half gold coated. I love it when you get that half coating because it means that you get so much more scintillation on that bead. We have got little mini drops as well. Barbara's in from Eastern Oregon on the Columbia River. Slightly windy but warm. I do love a weather report from around the world. Welcome, Barbara. Thanks so much for watching. So these drops are again half coated. You've got a very, very soft grey on one side, and then on the other side you've got a high shine silver. Beautiful. I have popped a link into the video description so you can head over and grab yourself an Earl Grey. We've got rondelles in silver coated crystal. They're lush. Absolutely adore those as well. Why am I so enthusiastic about Jessie James beads? Well, let me tell you. They're gorgeous. They are. They're gorgeous. I've just made a little ear wire here from a head pin. Just simply bent it around 2 different round forms, and that's what we're going to use today to make an earring. That pair of beads escaped. They heard the bit about being unleashed and they went off on it. So you've got quite a lot of beads left over, and that's after making a pair of earrings. So let's have a look at the project that we're going to make. The beads in here, there are more of them. We have got these enormous, great big 2 finish beads. Perfect rounds, faceted on the girdle, and it's highly polished on the girdle and then matte polished end to end. You get a really beautiful effect with that coating as well. I've separated these out. There are glass pearls. There are daisy spacers in a beautiful antique bronze colour. You've got a couple of those big drops in the project as well. Some of those 2 and 2 colour rondelles and some of the cubes. And this is what we're going to make with it. So I've made this as an earring. I really like big earrings. However, when we've finished creating the most part of this form, if you want this as a pendant instead, because I feel like it would be a really beautiful pendant, what we would do is turn this loop at the top through 90 degrees and make it a little bit larger, and it would then act as a bail through which you can thread your favourite chain. CJ's in. Hello, darling. They are beautiful. Thanks so much for joining. Anne is in all the way from California. Tell me, Anne, is it swimming weather today? So one of the techniques I wanted to share with you today is forming wire. And I don't just mean wrapping around the side of a metal bead. That's really super achievable. But creating a shape without risking your beads. Because I love beads and I don't want to damage them. So we're going to make the other pair to this. And when we get up to the top, I'll talk you through what you'd need to do to make it into a pendant instead of a beautiful, glorious, sparkly drop earring. So the wire that I'm going to work with today is 18 gauge round. Anne says, yes, it's swimming weather. That's code for it's toasty warm and we love it. So I have around about 12 inches here. I've pre-cut the wire. I'm not worried about the ends just yet because I'm sure I'll be trimming them in a little while anyway. Now 18 gauge wire, went through all of the beads that I've chosen really easily. You'll please forgive my dog Joey. It's just him, Mojo and myself at home at the moment, so I don't shut them away from me, but he can be a little bit on the noisy side. So many thousands of apologies for that. Hopefully he'll calm down in just a second. Now, when I'm talking about forming wire, what I don't want to do is risk any of your beads. And the way that you can avoid that is to super warm your wire. So we're going to keep this relatively straight to begin with, and we're going to ensure that that central third, and again it's about 12 inches, it's 18 gauge round wire. We're going to make sure that that middle section is really toasty warm, super warm indeed, just because That means that this wire is going to work exactly how we want it to. So why don't we start by threading our beads on? I almost went to the wrong pot then. Let's move this one up to the top so I don't bonk it over, which is, you know, I probably will anyway. And then we'll pop all the beads we're going to use. Hopefully I've got all the right ones. So I'm going to repeat the same order. So for my design, I've gone for one of those fabulous metallic square beads, followed by a beautiful antique daisy spacer. And again, Danielle, do feel free to check me if I'm calling your beads by entirely the wrong name. Then I've gone for a two-tone faceted rondelle. Let's slide that down into position. And then these are fabulous. I mean, I was tempted to call it a Death Star bead because that's kind of what it reminds me of, but it seemed a bit rude, so I don't know what it is. It's a two-finish faceted round. Yay, daisy spacer. I got one thing right. Let's cheer. Then we are going to add on one of the glass pearls, or faux pearls if you prefer. They're known by different names around the world. Now, the most at-risk shape of bead when you're threading onto wire is indeed a drop, where the drill hole is near the top. So it's important to keep your wire relatively straight. You can see it's got a curve to it, but it's not in any way having a hard bend. We need that to sit down in the middle. So let's repeat in the opposite direction then. So we'll go for a faux pearl, or glass pearl if you prefer. Then we're going to add on a Death Star bead. Whoops, it slipped out. Sorry, Danielle, I do apologise. Then we're going to go for a daisy spacer. I think I've missed a daisy spacer somewhere. I have. Oh my goodness, let me just take those off. I've missed a couple of beads from the other end, but that's the joy of a design when you're making jewellery yourself. Doesn't matter if you miss one. We'll go from either end, I think, actually. So if you change your mind part the way through, or if you do it wrong, you can build it like so, and we'll just copy the design that we had earlier. I indeed missed a daisy spacer and one of these sultry two-tone soft grey faceted rondelles. So let's put one of those on either side. And then we'll go for one of the smaller two-tone rondelles with that slightly darker, moodier colourway over the surface of that crystal bead. Really beautiful. Danielle says, if you love this mix, check out our farm fresh flavours. Absolutely. Why wouldn't you? So much to love. So we're going to continue adding on beads now. What's next? I think it might be another daisy spacer on either end. And then I think we'll finish up with a square bead on either end. They're not really square. If you look at them, they're kind of diamondy from one aspect and cubey in their overall shape. So one of those on either end. Let's just get that to come down the line. And then on the other side. Now, when I'm forming earrings, and I'll just show you an example of what I mean. When I made this earring yesterday, I used a mandrel to get that perfect pear shape down at the bottom. When I've already got beads on my wire, I don't want to be doing that because I don't want to risk hurting them. So this is a class in how to make wire do what you ask it to do by asking politely. Now that's a really long title for a class. However, if it's cold where you are, you can scooch those beads over to one side and just re-warm that central section. It's super important to make that middle bit super toasty. Then we're going to centralise everything down in the middle, and we're going to very, very softly allow that pear shape to form by itself. I'm not using anything to help that happen other than the heat of my body, just warming that wire through to make sure that those wires don't move too quickly, too abruptly, too sharply. The feeling is mutual, Cynthia. It's lovely to have your company. Thank you so much for being here. Now, when you're making earrings, I tend to make them side by side so that you can get all of those sizes the same. Also, if you're a bit dim, like I obviously am today, it means that you can get the bead order right. And if you're selling or you're gifting, you probably want the bead order to be the same on both pairs. Both sides, rather. So I'm just going to very, very softly nudge those until they're really close. I don't want them to completely touch those beads up at the top, but just kind of close. And I definitely don't want any pressure on that beautiful faceted drop with the drill going side to side up at the top there. So just above the point where everything crosses over, I'm going to bring one of those lines upright So I'm going to grab that wire just where it crosses and bring one of those up and away at that 12 o'clock position. So imagine a straight line running through the design, 12 o'clock, popping out at the top with one of those wires. Let's just get that nice and straight for a second. On the second side, what we're going to do is grip the wire just above the last bead. Bring that down into focal distance a little bit more, and then we're going to turn that away sideways. If I just remove my pliers for a second, you'll see there's a gap above either side. Either bead has got a bit of a gap. Then what I'm going to do is to grip across that last angle change. So where we were going up and away, and then we turned sideways over to that 9 o'clock position, that's where I'm going to hold across with my chain nose pliers and bring that wire all the way around over the top. Normally I hit the camera at this stage. Well, that's something of a result, isn't it? Let's give it another go, see if I can hit the camera this time. So what we need to do now is to stop this wire from shrinking. So I'm going to hold on to this as best I can. I'm going to hold on to it by hand because it's easier for me to show you what's happening. But you can continue to grip with your pliers just before that angle change. Hello, Margaret. I do hope you're feeling better. How's the weather in Edinburgh? So I'm going to bring that wire all the way around that upright bend that we made and over again to the other side. So I've got 2 visible wraps, and you'll see we've still got those gaps in between the final cubey type bead and that whole section where everything joins together. So what I'm going to do now is very, very softly compress that little coil of wires down. Now, because I want my earrings to be symmetrically opposite to one another, what I'm going to do is to take that wire all the way around again. So I'm going to grip really firmly. You could put your pliers back in, and I'm just going to take that over to the left hand side, just because it means that on the one earring the wire goes over to the right, and on the other earring it's going away to the left. If you've got too many wraps or you don't like how it looks, you can always flip the design over and you can have that wire kind of on the opposite side. So you see, if I flip that over, it's on the left. So at this stage there really isn't a front or a back. It doesn't exactly matter. So let's bring one of those beads down into the neckline now. I went for one of these absolutely fabulous textured round beads. Now these have got an amazingly large drill hole. You can see the light on my table just down there. Huge. Fits on, I think, a 14 gauge, maybe a 16 gauge wire. So what I'm going to do now is to draw this wire around the outside of that bead. So I'm just going to bring that against the edge of the bead. So if I just hold that by its side, I'm just going to bring it slightly forward so that it sits over the edge of the bead and then crosses. You can go underneath or above the core wire. It's absolutely up to you. It doesn't really matter. I think I might take it over the front actually. And you'll see, because the wire is warm, it didn't mind me changing that around at the last minute. Not a problem at all. Margaret says the weather in Edinburgh is so-so. I'm sorry to hear that. You can have some of my sunshine. We've got plenty of it today. So what we're going to do now is bring this wire to wrap 2.5 times around that central core wire. Now, if you were working with a glass bead, you might want to put your thumbnail over the top just to protect it. As it happens, we're working with a metal bead, so the only thing we need to worry about is not bringing the wire over the surface of the bead, but just keeping it around that outside edge. Sarah is here. Hello, darling. How are you? So let's draw that wire around the core. 1.5 times. 2.5 times. If your wire gets away from you, can you see there's gaps there? You can just tighten that up slightly. So what I'm going to do is elect that this is the front. I'm quite happy with how that looks. So I'm going to bring that wire around to the rear of the design, pinching that bead quite firmly so that I don't lose that lovely circuit of wire around the outside. Make sure that that's nice and tight on the core wire. And then I'm just going to flip over to the rear of the design so I can trim away, making sure you look twice and cut once, because it's kind of sad if you cut the wrong bit. Sometimes you can do other interesting things with it, and sometimes it really helps you learn what to do in an emergency. So the next thing that we are going to do is to apply our absolutely fantastic, very sexy saucer bead. Again, Danielle, you can correct me if I'm wrong calling it this, but it's a beautifully faceted saucerish bead with lovely great big swathes of light and a frilled girdle around the edge. Absolutely stunning bead. That one fits onto my 18 gauge wire without any problem whatsoever. Now, what I am going to do next is to create a sideways loop. What does that mean? Sideways from the top of the neck of my design, in keeping so it's flat to the board, because most earring findings have the loop coming away. So if you pop that in your ear, your loop is at 90 degrees opposition to the table or to the board. So you need to have your loop in the same as the table so that those two mesh together. If it goes horribly wrong and you forget to do that, don't worry, just use a jump ring or a split ring or some other form of connection. Margaret says, beautiful beads, love the colours, they're so sultry. Let me just give you a quick shimmy. This is Jessie James Beads Mini Mix in Earl Grey. All of these beads are left over after you've made this pair of earrings. So in the mix, you have got more of these drop beads. You could use these beautiful half-tone round beads in place of any of these ones and create yourself a matching but not quite matching pendant if you wanted to. Or you could use the tassels down at the base. Whichever way you want to go, it's going to look beautiful because Earl Grey is just such a sultry mix. Very, very grown up and sexy. So let's hold across that wire and make that sideways bend. So I'm estimating where my pliers are is going to look to be about 2 wraps. It doesn't really matter if it's not perfectly accurate, but I reckon we'll get about 2 wraps in there. So we're going to now choose, I actually can't remember what size of bail making plier I used for that hole, so we're just going to assume it's the number 1 and hope that it's not too dissimilar. This is why the idea is you do them at the same time. Let's turn that all the way around to get that loop sitting up at the top. Looks a bit small, to be honest, so I might just open that out. And there we go. So even if you don't have the right tool with you, if you've got your chain nose pliers, or in my case the bent chain nose pliers, you can kind of adapt it anyway, so never fret, there's usually a fix. So I'm happy that that loop is what I want it to be. Now, if you are making this as a pendant, instead of taking a sideways bend, you'd bring a forwards bend up and away. And then you'd use a much larger number on your bail making pliers so that you could get any chain or threading material through there. And in that way, you can make a pendant instead of earrings if that's what you'd like to do. So let's finish off this design by gripping across that circular form and bringing it closer to the camera so that I can get the wire all the way around. So that's 1 wrap. And then we'll get a second wrap, take that to the rear of the design, and then snip away the excess. So we started with around about 12 inches and I've cut away probably a total of around about 4 or 5 inches of wire. These are definitely lengths of wire that I would use again for other projects. I've got so many. Let me show you actually. I was working on a design earlier, had a teeny bit left over, turned it into a spiral. I've put that in a pot of other spirals, and at a point in time I'm going to turn it into one great big piece of jewellery. So let's tidy up that last little bit of wire, always being mindful of your bead. Now if you're worried about that bead, you can put your thumbnail over the top just while you tidy that last little section of wire down neat and tidy. So let's just add in that last earring section, that last earring finding rather. Pop that into the grip. And then you have got your pair of earrings from Earl Grey. So this is the mix, Jessie James Beads Mini Mix in Earl Grey. It's what we refer to as an evergreen. It's always here. There's Joey just saying hello. Sorry about the noise. I've got all of these beads left over from my mini mix to make so many more designs. If you don't manage to get those little swoops of wire on opposite sides, don't worry. Just say that that's what you wanted it to look like. That's how you designed it. And that too is absolutely fine. Let's show you who is your girl today. It's Jem, coming to you all the way from the United Kingdom, where actually it's quite lovely today. It's quite toasty. It's probably about 78 degrees, something like that. So for us, quite warm. I hope that you're having the most beautiful day, and I hope that you have enjoyed Earl Grey. I do come back to this colourway time and time again. If you want to add, wait, I've got some pinks here from Lily from the other day. Pink and grey, perfect combination. Black and grey, perfect combination. Everything goes with Earl Grey. It's gorgeous. Sherry says, thanks, Gem. Another nice design. Thank you very much, Sherry. Tricia says, very pretty. Thank you. You're both very, very welcome. Thank you for hanging out with me today. I am going to love you and leave you. Have a big old glass of water. That was Mojo just coming in to say hello. Momo, come here. Come here and say hello. Come on. Well, you can see his tail wagging anyway. So Mojo says hello. Joey's been very vocal about saying hello. I hope that didn't put you off. Have yourself a fabulous rest of your day. And I look forward to seeing you back here at Jessie James Beads very soon. Bye for now.